Hi, and welcome to the session, A Collaborative Success. Hi, I'm Anita Young. I'm a virtual learning specialist at Appalachia Intermediate Unit 8. I'm also a world language instructor with the World of Learning Institute, which is a program within IU8. And I'm also a parent of a child in an early intervention classroom with the Tuscarora Intermediate Unit 11. So let me tell you about today's agenda a bit. What we're going to do is first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. Two, what I essentially wanted for my daughter during this time of remote instruction due to the pandemic. Three, this is what it led to. And then four, some takeaways for the future for myself, for you, and for others. So I want to begin before anything else by just putting out a disclaimer that we have to understand that not everyone's situation is the same. What we already know is that virtual learning is not the best or preferred way of learning for every child. Just like in brick and mortar classroom, there isn't a one size fits all. Same with remote and virtual instruction. Some IU's districts and schools don't have the resources and didn't have the resources to support professional learning on the topic of virtual learning, remote learning, engagement virtually. So it's really important to remember that when we consider what was being done and what teachers were doing to essentially survive and provide the best that they could for their students. As a parent, I also understand that not all parents have the availability to sit with their child during synchronous instruction throughout the daytime due to work or other obligations. And also, I also understand that some teachers are required to use specific technology tools or platforms. So the ones I discussed today might not even be an option for some schools, but could be transferred to other means. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do. So I want to begin with, I am a virtual world language instructor. So for about 6 years now, I have been delivering virtual synchronous instruction to students learning Spanish weekly. So I have been teaching virtually prior to COVID. I've taught in Zoom and I plan for student engagement virtually. This is not something that was just thrown on my lap, like many other teachers. This is something I've had practice of doing for years. I've had time to research. I've had time to develop on my own. I've had time to try things with students. So that is where my experience comes in. And then virtual learning specialist with the IU. I support the World of Learning language instructors. We have about 20 teachers that I support with their teaching practices, whether it's pedagogy with world language or the tech side of it. And then also when COVID forced the closures of schools approximately a year ago, my colleague and I in our program began supporting all the teachers within our IU and therapists and consultants, just anybody who was seeking professional learning. We also worked with a lot of school districts within our IU who didn't have the professional learning available. They just weren't prepared. So we were willing and able to support them too. So let me introduce you to Mia. Mia is my daughter. She is 6 years old, has an autism diagnosis. She began with early intervention services at the age of 18 months. At the age of 3, she qualified and transitioned into the early intervention classroom in our area, which happens to be IU 11, not the one I work in. She had no verbal language when starting. Upon starting with the IU, we discussed a trial with an assistive technology device that went very well. We actually received our own through the Variety Charity. So for those of you that are not familiar with Variety Charity, I would highly recommend looking into it and even sharing this with families. It truly helped our family and bridge the communication gap. About a year later, after Mia received her device, she started to make more sounds and language slowly came. Now, since then, she can verbally express her wants, needs, as well as some early social language. But this isn't just about language. Obviously, Mia has some other needs with her diagnosis. But I do say language because you're going to see how it plays out in some of the live sessions. When schools closed to the pandemic and I found out classes were going to be virtual, this is what I didn't want for Mia and her peers. And these are social media posts. And I was discouraged as a parent. I was discouraged as a virtual teacher. I was discouraged as a virtual learning specialist that this is what was being portrayed as virtual learning and remote learning. And it broke my heart, truly. This isn't what I wanted for my own child. In fact, this isn't what I wanted for any child. So I knew I had to do something about this. This is what I wanted for my child. This is one of my students from a few years ago, who you can see based on his face, the excitement, the engagement, the happiness to be in class, the hands-on learning, the excitement to go to school. So this is what I wanted for Mia. This is what I wanted for Mia's classmates. And it didn't matter the situation, the diagnosis, that wasn't even things I was considering. I just wanted them to be excited and happy to be in a virtual classroom, virtual learning environment. So here's what I did, and this is what it led me to do. I reached out. I reached out to Mia's early intervention teacher, who is fabulous, and offered to meet with not only her, but the other staff in the classroom to discuss the opportunities with Zoom, which they were using to meet synchronously or planning to use to meet synchronously, and discuss what we could do to bring from their classroom into the virtual classroom. We discussed some of the routines, the pedagogy, some of the thoughts, some of the content, and how we can make it hands-on for these students, specifically students in early intervention that have learning difficulties. And have some challenges. What could we do and think out of the box to make sure that they were engaged and excited to attend Zoom synchronous sessions? So we talked about different tools, annotating, whiteboard, how to bring in media. So these were some of the things I shared with them, and we brainstormed how to bring it in. And it led me to this quote: teachers have three loves: the love of learning, love of learners, and the love of bringing the first two loves together. And I know that's a whole lot of love, right? But it's truly because I felt like during all of this, Mia's teachers and therapists were absolutely phenomenal. And they demonstrated their love of learning, their love of their learners. It was always learner centered. And the fact that they wanted to learn and kept learning, regardless of the time that they were putting into the new resources they were developing, the new things they were trying. Truly, their passion came through the screen. And as a parent and as a teacher, I was admired, or I admired them for all of it. And this is what we came to, that engagement is possible. As a parent back in November, I sat back and I watched my daughter during her synchronous live sessions be fully immersed and engaged. Now, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't easy all the time. We did use some popcorn and gummy bears as positive reinforcements to make sure she attended and things like that. I sat beside her. But I watched the magic unfold as I could see her in person right here sitting next to her doing it. And I could see through the screen some of the other students engaging too. But how did I know it was really engaging, right? Well, for example, Nell was able to use routines as students logged in to write their name on the screen using the annotate tool. So the students knew the routine to sign in. They were able to practice their writing. You can see some of the kiddos writing their names. They sang their hello song. So we brought in things that the kids already knew and were able to do it in Zoom. We were able to do the calendar, counting, days of the week, goodbye song. So let me play for you a little bit of Mia doing her goodbye song.
We wave goodbye like this. We wave goodbye like this. We clap our hands for all our friends. We wave goodbye like this. You're doing it. I hear tap tap. Are you enjoying it? Bye. Bye, Mia. Thanks for coming. Bye.
So you can see, even though she wasn't verbal, she engaged and participated. I tried to encourage her, but it was fine. She still engaged and participated, and her teachers were able to see that. And again, that was a typical classroom routine that they were just able to implement, nothing fancy. So here were some of the hands-on activities that were really engaging. And again, we use Zoom, the annotate tools, and Mia's teacher, Nell, did a great job of sharing with parents how to use the annotate tools. And it's crazy to believe that after almost a year of doing this, my daughter, who was 6, was 5 at the time, now can identify and find her own annotate tools in Zoom. It's crazy to think that they could do this. And have learned this even at such a young age with learning difficulties. So here's some examples of some of the activities that they did. They did letter tracing. And they did shapes, right? Drawing shapes. And Mia had an opportunity to draw her own shape of a heart on the side. They did counting and were able to practice writing their numbers. So typical activities that they would have been doing in the classroom were able to be hands-on and engaging for the students. So some of the other activities that they did coloring on the screen. They did video books, right? Automated audio books. They were able to do gross motor brain breaks, right? Where they got up and got to do some things. I don't know if any of you used Fluency and Fitness. Those were a big hit. Zoom annotate tools, as you can see, to practice letter number writing. Stamping within Zoom, there's stamping, so they were able to respond and do reading comprehension, practice letter and sound recognition. The teachers liked and the therapists liked to use boom cards as well, for those of you that are familiar with them, to check for comprehension as well and practice a variety of skills. And the happier, the better. Mia loves and loved going to Zoom sessions. You can see that. She got to see her peers, she got to see her teachers, her para, and she was genuinely happy. This was a success, a collaborative success, because I don't know the content and pedagogy of preschool, specifically special education. This was a collaborative success. I was able to help with tech. She was able to, her teacher was able to provide and develop the lesson plans and take it so it was engaging for students. And as a parent, it was a collaborative success because I was able to also give ideas, now could share with other parents on how we were able to do it, which was terrific too. So meet the team and the planning. So a little bit more behind the scenes. And now the EI classroom head teacher, she was preparing the lesson plans for large group instruction. She communicated to the families. She led the Zoom sessions during routines and story reading, and then posted recordings and announcements in Class Dojo. Not every child, again, because based on the parent availability, was able to attend the synchronous live session, but now recorded all of them and posted them so parents and students can then engage at home together. Some were doing it as part of their bedtime routine. Some of them were doing it in the evening after school time. So it was a great opportunity, and she did a great job sharing that with families. IU therapists, they also were involved in the synchronous live sessions. They prepared small segments. So the full live session was typically about 45 minutes long, where Nell did portions of it and they kind of intertwined to give brain breaks as well. So it was fantastic. Para-educators, they were all present during synchronous live sessions. Some prepared social skill lessons during the synchronous sessions or some other supplemental activities, while others were in the behind the scenes also preparing asynchronous content and activities for families that we were able to pick up. Takeaways for the future, just some things to consider when planning virtual sessions. Know your students and their families, really, really important. Know their availability, what are they able to do in Zoom, what can they not, what might be a little bit of stretch, how are they accessing, are they using phones, are they using computers, get to know what kind of tech they're using too. Plan for engagement. Use what you know. You know your routines in your classroom. You know the types of activities they do in the classroom. And you know that these kiddos, especially early intervention, they need brain breaks. In fact, all kids need brain breaks, especially staring at a computer screen. So just plan for that. Plan for the hands-on. Don't just plan and speak to them for 40 minutes or a half hour. Have them do is really important. And last but not least, take it easy on yourself. As teachers, as educators, you're learning something new, and no one's perfect. No one's expecting perfection. Do the best you can, and that's all. As a parent, I can ask for, as an educator, as a leader amongst the teachers I work with, that's all we ask for. So as you're preparing your sessions virtually, I know some school districts are continuing with remote instruction. So in the event you are having to make the shift or transition for a small period of time to remote learning, just some suggestions and tools. And these are the ones that both me as classroom teacher and I used. We use Zoom. And she uses a lot of annotate tools to get that hands-on, and the recording feature to share out the recordings. Slides and PowerPoint, so she prepares everything in there so she can see the sequence of the lesson, has it saved, can be easily accessed. It makes it for smoother transitions as well. Yes, absolutely include media. And my goodness, I think every child appreciates media, but mostly, small children do too, as long as it's age appropriate. YouTube videos, PBS Kids, Vooks is a good one too, where you can listen and watch the animated stories. Boom cards, for those of you that are familiar with those, there's a lot already free that are created that you can use. And last but not least, this is one of my favorites, is just very simple. If you're kind of limited with your tech ability, just have students show and tell, depending on their verbal language, what they can and can't do. Maybe they can sign, maybe they can use a communication device, maybe a parent, and the student can access something that they just want to share. Most importantly, as long as you're making a connection, is what you value. I also put a link down here to some of our World of Learning YouTube resources that you can watch some additional videos on how we plan and some of the tools and ideas we shared with teachers and therapists during their remote instruction preparation. So here's what else you may need to know. Not all students, like I had mentioned, attended the live sessions. Some families preferred to watch them. Students and families were also provided asynchronous activities, resources, different tools, different suggestions that they could do at home to supplement that, the child's learning in progress. Parents were also offered individual synchronous live sessions. So what I showed you today was more about what the group live session looked like, but students were also offered individual live sessions so that their needs were personalized. So the content that Mia was taught was specific to her needs and her cognitive ability. Same thing, the therapist, again, based on her needs, whatever sounds they were working on, they were able to personalize. And additional, like I said, additional services were also offered virtually by the therapist, whether it was OT, or speech, and some students for PT, although that was not a service Mia needed. So if you have any questions, we're happy to share a little bit more details about what we did, but all I can tell you is that the collaboration between myself, my experience now, and my role as a parent in the classroom truly led to the success of the virtual instruction. I sat back that day and thought, wow, like this is awesome. We are able to actively engage no matter the circumstance of the child, no matter what challenges the child has. I think I'm just very proud of the way Nell was able to take some of the suggestions and really develop and integrate a lot of the things that they would do in the classroom to make it a smooth as possible transition, even for the children. So we are happy to share more of our story. Please feel free to contact myself or Nell directly if you have any questions, if you want to see more, or have any other suggestions for us even. We would appreciate them. Thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed the session.